Welcome to another episode of Stand on Guard. I'm your host, David Crayden. When we come back, this might be an historic first, at least in Canada. The mainstream media has admitted to producing fake news. When we come back, the CTV story and the latest on that.
So we are in a very precarious position. We need political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.
Yes, please subscribe if you haven't. Thank you so much. We hit 30,000 yesterday. You answered my hope and prayer. Yes, I was looking forward to that. And you came through. Thank you so much. In fact, we're a little bit over 30,000. Thank you so much for subscribing. Like the broadcast right now. If you can, it's appreciated because it does beat the suppression. This show does get routinely suppressed. Even, it doesn't seem to matter. The audience numbers, YouTube likes to suppress small c conservative shows that talk about issues and policies and aren't just letting loose with the ad hominem insults about Justin Trudeau. Yeah, I know it's easy to dislike Justin Trudeau, and I make that quite clear. But what happens when Justin Trudeau's not there anymore? Where do you go? You have to keep talking about issues that matter because personalities come and go. Policies and issues stayeth. And this is what this show is dedicated to giving you all the news you need to know every day. And so you can resolve to resist. That's our slogan here. That's what we mean to impart to you. And just thanks for watching. I wanted to read something before I forget. And I'll read this in a minute. Just a quick reminder that the store is open. The KRAYDEN'S Right store is open. The merchandise is there. Yes, have a look. We've got some great material. And I keep advertising, of course, the Bill of Rights t-shirt, which is my favorite right now. And unfortunately, it was in the wash this morning. Couldn't find it, so I'm not wearing it. But
the alternative is really cold and cruel and small.
So, just a brief intro. We've got lots to see. Have a look. I don't plug the store as much as I probably should, because I've always said I'm not a salesman per se, except when it comes to ideas and ideology. I guess I'm a bit of a salesman there, but I've never been a salesman for goods and merchandise. So, thanks for looking. Before I forget, I wanted to read a comment from a woman who responded to our show the other day with Greg Wycliffe, where we had a pretty good discussion. At times, maybe a little bit of disagreement on a couple of things, but a good discussion on Bill C-63, the online harms bill. And of course, there's one thing we had no disagreement on. It was the fact this bill needs to be killed and not replaced by a conservative version. Total agreement about that. This is an odious bill that is going to take away your basic right to free speech and undermine, well, no, not undermine, eradicate our democracy, because we don't have a democracy without free speech. It's fundamental. So you can have elections every 4 years, but they're meaningless without free speech. The Soviet Union had elections. There was one party on the ballot, but they had an election. How many plebiscites did Nazi Germany have? Plenty. They always wanted to hear the public reinforce and affirm their leadership. Always were looking for that kind of affirmation. So elections don't mean anything if you don't have the right to free speech. And of course, that didn't exist in Nazi Germany. That didn't exist in the Soviet Union. And it soon won't exist in Canada. And I keep saying that. But here's an interesting comment. Excuse these glasses here. But David, I am an 89-year-old great-grandfather. Sorry, this is a woman. This is not a woman. This is a man. I don't know, for some reason I read that as grandmother. This is a great-grandfather who, in spite of some minor mobility, I would support and participate in a massive, massive, massive protest from coast to coast. It must be peaceful, just like the Freedom Convoy. There is strength in numbers. If Canadians stand together, strong, there are not enough law enforcement officers, in brackets, to force us back. The free world is watching and is on our side. If we don't, evil will prevail over our great Canada we love. Maybe this time is not quite ready, but soon. Justin Trudeau is a fascist and moving closer to centralized authoritarian control, answerable to no one. Emperor Trudeau. I think the reason I mistook the gender here was the email, or the ID at the top was begins with Katie, and I read that. So no, this is a grandfather, great grandfather, 89 years old. Thank you for taking the time to write this to me. And when I get stuff like this, I love to read it. I love to read it because it means people are listening, and that's so important. When you're doing a show like this, you want to know that you're having an impact. That this 30 minutes in the morning, which takes, of course, more than 30 minutes to produce, is being watched and appreciated by people else, and it's of use to you. There's so much crap in the mainstream media that is not of use to any of us. And it's just being churned out. News is being churned out. And so much of it is what? Fake news? You bet. But let's have a look at some of that fake news. This is the statement. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this is the statement from CTV News. And this is historic because I don't know if these journalists were fired or not. That's what we're saying. Apparently fired. It says that they're no longer with the newsroom. Now, I don't know. What do they put them in? The mail room? So a lot of people, I've seen people speculating, well, they weren't really fired. I don't know. CTV is ambiguous in the explanation, in the description, but you don't take two journalists and put them in the admin section. They're not going to be happy there. They're going to want to go someplace else and start doctoring tapes, maybe CBC. But anyway, so CTV National News today issued the following statement regarding a report on its September 22nd, 2024 broadcast. A report on Sunday CTV National News broadcast did not meet our expected and required high editorial standards. We sincerely and unreservedly apologize for the manner this report went to air and the false impression it created. So they did a little investigation. The investigation found that two members of the CTV News team are responsible for altering a video clip, manipulating it for a particular story. Language in this statement, by the way, is really not very good for a news outlet. The grammar is terrible. Their actions violate our editorial standards and are unacceptable. Those individuals are no longer members of the CTV News team. Like I say, very ambiguous. So I don't know if they were literally fired or whether they've been moved, bumped upstairs in the organization. I don't know, because like I say, if you're a reporter or a journalist for a news outlet, that's what you do. They don't move you to the mailroom, if there is a mailroom anymore. I don't know. And then CTV goes on about our duty to blah, blah, to provide accurate, fair, and balanced coverage, which they don't do, of the issues that matter to Canadians, and to do so fully independently. They don't do that either because they're in hock to Justin Trudeau. They're taking his subsidies. It is of the utmost importance to us. We will continue to work to earn the trust, you don't have mine, of the millions of Canadians who turn to CTV News each and every day. And millions of Canadians are not turning to CTV News. That is quite funny. They should say that. That is particularly evident. Have a look at the views they get on Facebook. Stations like this, and certainly others who are doing far better than I am, are getting sometimes 10 times as many viewers than CTV. So millions of people are not tuning in to CTV anymore. They no longer trust CTV or CBC or Global News to give them accurate reporting or objective reporting, or even reporting that they can read between the lines with, because it's so bombastically propagandistic. But yeah, and this is how the National Post reported this. Once again, they're not quite sure whether these people, I don't know the gender. CTV News says it has parted ways. That sounds like firing to me, but that's a nice way to put it. With 2 staff members who manipulated a clip of Pierre Poilievre. Now, why is this important? Well, I tell you, it's the first time that I can recall that a news company has ever admitted it produced fake news. This is fake news, and they admitted it, and they admitted their reporters intentionally did it. It wasn't an accident. This is why I'm trumpeting this as the top story this morning. And I don't know if anyone else is getting this. They're going on, like, oh, they fired 2 reporters. Wow. Yeah. What's significant about this historically and politically is that they admitted that they produced fake news and the 2 journalists were doing it. Now, this is an outlet that's in hawk, as I say, or in the pocket of Justin Trudeau. They take Liberal government subsidies. They take Trudeau government subsidies in order to keep working. Of course, the irony is the last time Trudeau gave them a big payout, it went to Bell Media, which is more than just CTV News, and Bell Media gave it to their executives and kept on firing reporters. So CTV loves to fire reporters even when they don't produce fake news, so they can give it the bonuses to their executives, just like CBC. CBC, when it was giving bonuses, to executives, was actively laying off journalists. This is the mentality. While they spend $1.3 billion of your taxpayer funds to stay afloat. So get this. They're spending this money ostensibly because they're supposed to be providing Canadian content, Canadian news to you. They're spending the money that we give them on bonuses for executives and firing the journalists who are supposed to be producing the Canadian content. There are some good journalists at CBC, and I've known some good journalists over the years. I've worked with CBC journalists for decades, and there's some good journalists there still, and there's some very bad ones. But there's a lot of good journalists at CBC and CTV as well who are saying, we don't want to produce fake news. But of course, some of them, honestly, did want to produce fake news. And this is a definite scandal. I want to read this comment from Anita Poilievre, of course, the wife of Pierre Poilievre. She said on X, I guess this was last night. I can't see the date on here, but my husband is a fighter, and I couldn't be more proud. Canada needs a leader with unwavering principles and conviction. Someone who stands firm for what's right. Even when the media, critics, and so-called experts tried to tear him down. He's strong, smart, and exactly who this country needs. The fight for a better Canada continues. Yes, the media bias is real, but Conservatives will keep fighting for the people. Now, you might say to me, well, that's his wife talking. What is she going to say? That she doesn't support him? Well, let's look at it the other way, folks. When's the last time Justin Trudeau's wife, and they're still married, they're separated, they're not divorced, but when's the last time Sophie Gregoire Trudeau went on X to say, I stand beside my husband's policies. I think he's a strong and courageous leader. Actually, she's doing quite the opposite in the book. She describes him as a very difficult person, and she is very uncomfortable talking about him. I'm not going to speculate about what that's about. I think you might have some idea. He's a very difficult person in public. So can you imagine what he's like in private? But the point being, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau has never, as far as I can remember, gone on X or any social media and praised her husband as being a man of firm, strong convictions. Maybe because she knows Justin Trudeau has no convictions except to stay in power and accept that Justin Trudeau is just a marvelous man. And please keep supporting him. Oh, but she can't even say that. And excuse me again. And Poilievre has been taking a lot of crap over his insistence that CTV News first apologize and then own up, fess up. And they did. He stood his ground. And he said, I'm not going to be talking to any CTV reporters until something is done about this. Well, CTV obviously took him seriously, and they panicked. And they said, hey, we're going to demonstrate that we know this was fake news. It's not going to happen again. So I love Cat Canada here put this out in response to a column, which I just think is just absolutely hilarious. So it's Poilievre. Yeah, I mean, it's my old friend Susan Delacourt, the Toronto Star. Used to always have a few drinks with Susan at the press the old press club on Sparks and Wellington Street when it was still there. And she always used to spin stories about meeting Pierre Trudeau in the old days. And she's been on the Hill for many years and has done some good work. But it just amazes me how the Toronto Star continues to deflect from Justin Trudeau. Look at the poll here. Yeah. Who's unpopular? Justin Trudeau in the Liberal Party. And so why is there this strange mania now in the mainstream media about how unpopular and how disliked Pierre Poilievre is? And you can see all the social media comments, and of course it's all nonsense. It's Justin Trudeau is the one who is immensely unpopular, and I was just amazed that they would attempt to deflect to this degree. So Pierre Poilievre won this one, absolutely won this one. But I want to get back to another controversy, and I showed a lot of it yesterday, probably more than you wanted to see, and that was the so-called homophobic remark that was made in the House of Commons. Well, it turned out that the MP who made the so-called homophobic remark, which wasn't homophobic at all, was Garnet Genesis, who is a Conservative MP. And listen to him explain what happened here. This was complete distraction from Justin Trudeau as he went on and on and on about, oh, how dare the Conservatives make a homophobic remark? This is bullying. Bullying? And he's going to call out these people because nobody else has the guts to do it. Let's listen to the explanation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And we've heard a few words said in this House about bullying. I'm trying to provide an explanation with context and to answer false allegations that have been made against me, and I will persist in doing that. So following questions from the Leader of the Opposition about a $9 million luxury condo purchased by the government, and in particular identifying among the features of that condo a luxury bathtub, the Prime Minister ignored reference to those features and instead spoke about the engagement done by the government internationally. Right. And the Hansard shows the exchange, and many of the comments about made on Twitter about what was allegedly said don't reflect what's in the Hansard. The Hansard notes, does he engage with them in the bathtub? The point of that comment is to illustrate that, of course, meetings don't take place in a bathtub. A luxurious bathtub has nothing to do with meetings. The Prime Minister's answer had nothing to do with the questions, but it had nothing to do with sex. I wasn't thinking about sex at all. Never mind.
Oh, what a kerfuffle. Oh, he said sex. I have been watching politicians for decades, not just on television, but up close and personal. I've worked for them. I have been interviewing them. I put the microphone in their face. I've watched them up close and personal, for many decades now. I can tell when a politician's lying. It's obvious. And they lie a lot of the time. Garnet here is not lying. This is a moment of sincerity. He was not talking about sex. He was saying, do you need a luxury bathtub to conduct your meetings? He wasn't talking about this. And the Liberals and the NDP who insist he give an apology are grandstanding again on the LGBTQ float, if you will, on the platform. Grandstanding because they think, well, they're going to get a few votes out of this. Clearly, there was no intention to insult anybody except Justin Trudeau and Tom Clark and the Liberals who think you need this kind of luxury to be an envoy in New York City. That's what the issue was all about. Trudeau deflected it because he didn't want to talk about the cost involved. He didn't want to talk about the issue as usual. He wanted to get personal. And why did he take such offense? Why did he take this so personally? Why did this get under his skin? Why did he assume the Conservative MP was talking about sexuality? Why did he assume this was a so-called homophobic remark? Well, I think we know why. And I won't state it on air, but I think we know why Justin Trudeau gets so upset about these remarks and takes them personally. You know, I don't want to get demonetized for saying what we all know to be self-evident. Some other time, perhaps. But that puts, I hope, this matter to rest. And Justin Trudeau wasted 9 minutes, count them, 9 minutes in the House of Commons on Wednesday, going through this remark, feigning outrage, feigning just absolute anger over this, and almost getting kicked out of the House because he refused to apologize and refused to retract his words. But he knows this is all about identity politics. This is all about shoring up his support and looking like he's a champion for the LGBTQ plus. And I won't even get into all the silly letters involved in that now. But we've got another non-confidence motion coming up. Wow. We just had one. Good. Keep them coming. Maybe we'll get some spine from the Bloc, which I don't even think should be there, or the NDP, which has supposedly ripped up their agreement with Justin Trudeau. Maybe we'll get a little bit of backbone from the NDP, from Jagmeet Singh, the guy with the anger management problem, who's always challenging people to fist fights when he doesn't like what they say, and probably should be getting some treatment for that. But no, that's okay. Jagmeet doesn't need any treatment. He's Jagmeet. So we'll just let him get away with that. But Pierre Poilievre stood up yesterday, and I just love who responded to this.
Well, at least someone over there thinks about monetary policy. Mr. Speaker, who could be against the following motion? That, given that after 9 years, the government has doubled housing costs, taxed food, punished work, unleashed crime, and is the most centralizing government in Canadian history, the House has lost confidence in the government and offers Canadians the option to axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House of Commons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There's a very simple answer to his question as to who's opposed to that motion. Canadians.
Well, Canadians are opposed to you, Karina Gould. This is the woman who welcomed a former Nazi, former Waffen-SS soldier into Parliament, met with him before he got into the House of Commons, sat in the visitors' gallery, took 2 standing ovations. Karina Gould met with him before that. Karina Gould, it was also the one who said, let's excise this whole thing from the record. Let's pretend it never happened. Let's just pretend it never happened, because now the world knows how stupid I am and how stupid the Liberal Party is and how stupid the Trudeau government is for inviting a former Waffen-SS soldier into the parliamentary gallery to receive standing ovations because he fought the Russians during the Second World War. And they were too dumb, too historically ignorant to know that Canada was not fighting the Russians in the Second World War. They were fighting the Germans alongside their Russian allies. But Karina Gould obviously didn't know that. I don't think she knows history beyond 10 years back. And that is embarrassing. But of course, Poilievre's right. Let's keep pushing for non-confidence, because we've got to get rid of this Trudeau government before they can pass the Online Harms Act and other odious, dangerous legislation. What else happened yesterday? Well, we had a visit from Justin Trudeau's very good friend, Emmanuel Macron, French President Emmanuel Macron. Now, this was beautiful. Can we have that clip? Here they are. That's pretty sweet, isn't it? I mean, the affection there is just, oh, I mean, it really is heartrending. Here they go. See, he just touched his bum there. No, did you see that? Did you see that? That is so telling. Well, this is the man who's the proto-feminist, right? Justin Trudeau. He's also the guy that pushes the women under the bus all the time if they're in his cabinet and they're in the way. Here he is with the very charming Foreign Affairs Minister, Melanie Joly, and he literally pushed her out of the camera view, out of the scene. You see, he says, "Get out." This looks like something from the Playboy Club in the 1960s, that kind of behavior, pushing a woman out of the way. This looks like something from Mad Men, when it was deemed okay to just push the woman out of the way because she's not there to talk real serious politics. It's Justin Trudeau does it every time. Give him enough rope and he will hang himself. He does it every time. And he pushes Melanie Joly out of the camera view, out of the room, because the men are going to be talking now. Time for you to leave. And it just amazes me the disrespect he shows towards women when they're not politically useful to him, not only at the moment, but at all. And we saw this so many times in the past, where Liberal cabinet ministers have been thrown under the bus if they're women, because it's convenient to do so. And he really has no respect for women at all. This is the man. Everything he says he is, he actually isn't. And everything he says his opposition opponents are, he actually is. So he's the one with the problems here. And let's get back to this. It's just too hilarious. And that is... c'est toujours... And what did these boys talk about? The men in the room. What did the men in the room talk about? Well, war in Ukraine, which yesterday Trudeau said, go ahead, fire those missiles into Russia. Go ahead. Even though Russian President Vladimir Putin said, you fire those missiles into Russia, we're going to respond with nuclear weapons. Does Justin Trudeau know that? Does he understand that? Does he want a nuclear war? Does he really think it's worth fighting this far for Ukraine to start a nuclear war over this? Or is it time to find some peace? He's all for peace in Gaza because that would be beneficial to his identity politics in Canada, where he straddles the line between appeasing the Muslim community and the Jewish community. And he tries to walk a very fine line between them because he knows he needs their votes in Montreal to win. And he doesn't want to alienate either too much. So he wants peace there because that's a solution to his political problems. But he wants a war in Ukraine because that, he thinks, is a solution to his political problems, because he can be a war leader. Let me tell you, war in Ukraine is a solution to nothing except catastrophe. That is what is going to happen if Justin Trudeau gets us into a war in Ukraine. But you can see how naive he is. I mean, Macron was the idiot, the complete idiot, who suggested the French army should march against Russia. The French army is not capable of marching against anybody. It hasn't been probably since the Great War. of 1914, 1918. And then it mutinied because it was led so poorly by a bunch of idiots who used their troops as cannon fodder. So it hasn't been prepared for war in many, many years. Maybe it's prepared for war in the colonies, and they lost those too. They got kicked out of Vietnam. They got kicked out of, French Indochina, as it was called then, because they were so incompetent. So now Macron wants to march against Russia, the largest nuclear power in the world. What a bloody joke. And of course, Justin Trudeau is in on the joke with him. And all of these NATO leaders are insane to suggest a nuclear war is not only thinkable, but winnable. These people are demented. I'll say it again. We need peace in Ukraine. We need peace in the Middle East before we get into World War III. Donald Trump has said this. Thank God some potential president has had the nerve and the guts and the moxie to call a spade. And this is what it is. We're marching towards the Third World War if we don't find peace in Gaza and we don't find peace in Ukraine. And firing missiles at Russia is not a solution. It is an escalation, possibly to catastrophe, possibly to the obliteration of the world. So I leave you with that happy note today. Don't think for a minute it can't happen, because the people in charge today are delusional, demented, and completely denuded of ideas. And this is where we're at on September 27th? Yes, September 27th, 2024. Thank you so much for watching, and we will be back. Thank you for watching this episode of Stand on Guard and being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right channel. If you've watched this episode to this point, you've watched it all. And that's really important for a small station like this. We always say subscribe, hit the bell, be a part of the KRAYDEN resistance. Resolve to resist. That's what we're doing. And if you become a subscriber, if you're a supporter of this station or a member through Substack, through YouTube, and now you can be a local as well, that's so important to us, because I couldn't do this without you. I made a decision to become an independent journalist about a year ago because I wanted to bring all of my experience in the military, in journalism, to you. I don't promise anything I can't deliver. I don't offer clickbait. I offer truth. The truth is out there, and it's my job to bring that truth to light and to you. Thanks for being a part of the KRAYDEN'S Right resistance, and we'll see you again soon. So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need a political change, but we also need to resolve to resist.